Hello, cats and kittens. I'm Jose Yoroshka. I'm back in the Crisis Corner on Manga Monday, and I'm looking here at One Piece. I'm giving my impressions on One Piece chapter 1167, which is entitled Ida's Sons. Now we are back to what I would consider useful information in this flashback, which is not to say that the God's Valley portion of this, or the inception level of God's Valley, was not important. Long term important, yes, but now we're getting back to information that is relative to the ongoing present, which is the crisis in Elbaf. And I think it's fairly evident that this information is going to tell us what happened to Harold and why Loki should be viewed as a sympathetic character. And we got that in this chapter for sure. But just going through the chapter, we can see clearly that Harold is being duped. He is being duped. The world government, the Gorosei, has weaponized his desire to help his people by bringing them into the world government. They've weaponized his passionate desire to make his people part of the world government and forced him into servitude, making him basically not, you could say basically a slave of the world government, doing their bidding with the promise that Elbaf will be brought into the world government. But we all know that that's a lie. We can see he's being played. And they likely have no intentions of bringing Elbaf into the world government, or even if they do, it'll only be on their terms. So he's going around decimating pirates, selective pirates apparently, because if he is this weapon against piracy that is an effective weapon against piracy, he's never actually sent after pirates of any renown. They don't send him after Kaido, they don't send him after Whitebeard, Rogers, Big Mom, assuming that maybe he couldn't defeat them or whatever, but he's sent after pirates, and we see him defeating pirates, but nobody that seems to be of any consequence. But he is decimating pirates, and it's becoming, it's an uproar around the world that, this monster is going around, cutting down pirate ships and so forth. And, nobody knows, nobody has seen, or not many have seen a giant before, so they just assume it's a monster of some sort. But he's doing the world government's bidding with the hope that his people will benefit from association with the world government. But again, we know that's not going to happen. So the long and short of it is, he gets this mark, the shallow covenant mark on his arm, the same mark that Shanks had on his left arm, which is the first of three marks, or three levels of servitude, or whatever you want to call it, to the world government. You got the shallow covenant mark, the depth covenant, and the abyss covenant, with their ranks going from shallow, depth to abyss, which is the Holy Knights have the abyss mark, and I guess that comes with the immortality, jutsu, and all of that good stuff. So he's on the lower ranks, working his way up. The Holy Knights don't seem to hold him in much regard, but they don't say that to his face. They basically, but they treat him like a lower level, employee, so to speak. And the sad part is he looks so happy. He looks like he is, working his way up in some honored level, that he's received some honor from these people. And the question that I have is this: He's spending time on Marijois. He is around these people, these, yeah, the five elders, but he's got to be rubbing shoulders or passing the celestial dragons. Does he not see who these people are? They can't help themselves but be the jerks that they are. Okay, so at some point it's going to occur to him that these people, you know, treat human beings like trash. Is he cool with that? Because if he is to a certain degree, he's getting what he deserved. In terms of, I'm not saying we know that he winds up getting stabbed up in the end because we saw that at the beginning of the flashback. That's true, but you see who you're rubbing shoulders with. These people are trash. And if he hangs out in Marijois long enough, he's going to see this. But he persists because he wants to help his people. And again, they've weaponized this. So he's being duped. And to a certain extent, he kind of has it coming. But that's just my impression, or that's my way of looking at things. Another thing is, they tell him, don't say anything about what you see here. Say what happens in Marijois stays in Marijois, but you're free to go and roam around the lower world, as they call it. Just don't tell anybody what we're doing. And we see him, cavorting around with King Neptune and blah blah blah. The thing that interests me is this: he runs into Saul, presumably after judging from Saul's face. I'm assuming this is presumably after he survived the Buster call in O'Hara. Okay, and he asked him to open a school in Elbath. Do the does the world government know about this? Did he not tell them about that? And I'm assuming he didn't, because if he if they know that Saul is on Elbath, they would likely order uh, Harold to take him out. So he no way he told them that he's on Elbath, and he has to know that he survived the Buster call, and he must know about the incident on O'Hara. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about this, but so Saul comes to Elbath to open a school. Cool. Now we also see that Shanks is playing a Lawrence Fishburne deep cover, and that he's the dude that helped Fisher Tiger escape from Marijois. And he was culpable in the riot of the Fishman riot, or whatever you want to call that incident. What was it called? The ransacking of Sacred Marijois. Okay, he was behind it. He helped these people escape and set that in motion, and then comes back to Bourgeois, and he receives his mark. He receives the same mark that Harold has, and he's milking his brother Shamrock for information, which is cool. Like I said, he's playing deep cover. That's great. I have I'm not even going to mention my theory about Shanks, but he is deep cover. I just find it interesting that he had just received his scar from Blackbeard, and I wonder if that had anything to do with him returning. But I still got to work out that theory. Anyway, but it's also interesting that Harold seems to remember or know Shanks from somewhere. Shanks plays it off like he doesn't know who he is, but we see in those panels that Harold is looking back and saying, "I know that dude from somewhere." It's giving me some New Jack City vibes too. I see that dude somewhere. Anyway, so that's a separate story that seems that it's going to play itself out relatively soon. And finally, we get to Harold. Why should we, not Harold, I'm sorry, Loki. Why should we see him as a sympathetic character? We all know that at one point he had burned down a village, and we assume that he did that because he's a jerk or because he's evil or whatever. Now we see that it's because people from his hometown poisoned his stepmom, or whatever you want to put that, Ida, I believe that's her name, yeah, poisoned her because they didn't want her to succeed as being the new queen under Harold. And Harold's been petitioning the elders to say, please let me marry her, make her my bride, because my scum first wife, I can't even remember what happened to her at this point. It's been so long. Anyway, whatever, she's out the picture or whatever. Yeah, so she wants to make that his wife. The elders say that no, she's a commoner or whatever. She's an outsider. We can't have her be a royal or whatever. So they poison her and then mess up and tell Loki about this, thinking that he would be down with it because she's an outsider. Woe betide the man that poisoned his stepmom or whatever you want to call it, because he burns their village down, strangling people left and right, and he is just pissed. I mean, this man, he raises it. Okay, so now we know that he's not that merciless, evil person that we're supposed to think he was initially. Now, he burned down a village and likely, eliminated quite a few people, at least one of whom had it coming. But we're getting under the veil of who Loki actually is. And that's what I was looking for from this flashback. Who is Loki? Why is he despised? Is he in fact sympathetic? And what happened to Harold? Now, it's becoming apparent that again, Harold was duped. He was promised something that he was never going to receive. Apparently, he's going to find out something that he's not supposed to know, and he's going to get stabbed up for it. And that's likely how he's going to meet his end, or that's the reason that we saw at the beginning of this this flashback, that he was being stabbed up by a bunch of dudes is probably because he found out something that he shouldn't have and was going to talk, and that's it. Now we're just working backwards and finding out exactly what that was. I mean, Ida's done. I mean, I'm sorry. She's a One Piece mom. She's done. There's nothing going to happen to save her. She's done. She's going off with the rest of them. She's done. It's over. Her thing is she's cooked. But we just got to find out the hows, the whys, the wherefores, and so forth. So I enjoyed this chapter more so than some of the God Valley stuff because it's giving me insight into the people relative to the narrative that's going on currently in Elbaf. So I really enjoyed this chapter. Let me know what you think. Well, let me know if you think Ida's going to make it. No, she won't. Well, let's be real about that. But yeah, just let me know your impressions. Apparently, we're going to get a chapter this week, and then we're going on break. So there's that. But we're going to get a chapter. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we're getting a chapter this week. So let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the chapter. Until next time, stay loose.